All right, man. The time is here, ladies and gentlemen. The time is here. The time is upon us. My sister's here. What up, eh?
Hey, Torae, I love your t-shirt.
I mean, you know, a little something light, you know what I mean, on a Wednesday, nothing crazy. This is actually your t-shirt, though, and thank you for the years and years of supporting me as an artist, and, you know what I'm saying, anytime I had something to pull up at, and I wanted to rep the right way, you know, you always took care of me, and, you know what I mean, we family, we take care of each other, right? We make that dollar circulate. Absolutely.
Thank you for being there since day one when I the video, just always being there, always about including.
Oh, it was my honor and pleasure and privilege. Like I told you when we first met, like when I was a shorty and I was watching Video Music Box and I was seeing all my favorite artists and Walkaware, that was a far stretch for the kid. You know what I mean? We couldn't just go to the spot and pick that up because, you know, life wasn't like that. So many things that I do now, I think it takes me back to my childhood. It was like, damn, I never had these kicks, so now I'm about 4 pair. I never had this Walkaway, so now I'm gonna make sure I rep it all the time and all of that. But just you being an amazing Black female designer, that's hurdle on top of hurdle on top of hurdle. I definitely want to get into some of your story, how you got started. Obviously, I know a lot of this because we've had extensive conversations, but I definitely want to get it right with my tribe. So, how did you get your start in the business, eh? You know. How was that? We'll talk to me as a Brooklynite, you know what I mean? How did you get it jumping?
So I started in the 80s. It was so different in Brooklyn. Brooklyn was kind of like a war zone. And I was in college. I knew I didn't want to work with someone else. My father was in the music. I'm giving you the real short version.
Right.
He was in the music business. I saw him being an entrepreneur and a solopreneur. So I knew I could do something on my own. I just didn't know what it would be. And then one day I went into Dapper Dan and the light bulb went off. Like, we have nothing like this in Brooklyn. And I was already into dressing already. I was going to school for business and communication. So I just revered and I opened a tailor shop called Fashion Effect on a shoestring budget. That's how the journey began.
Right. Fashion and Effect, and you styled a lot of our favorite artists from music videos to album covers. So talk to me about, as you got Fashion and Effect started, how were you able to start to make these connections and link up with people?
So relationships are everything. I would tell people to this day they're everything. And word of mouth, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the phone, you didn't have none of that. So
there wasn't following you on the gram?
None of that. The gram was not here. So it was literally like the proof is in the pudding. We had to create and we had to make stuff. And thank God, word of mouth traveled. Brooklyn was repping Brooklyn. So my first 2 big customers that I remember repping were Biggie.
Crazy.
He came in, Chris came in one day before he was signed. He was from around the way and he saw an Air sweatshirt in the window and he asked about it. And so that struck a conversation. We gelled on hip hop, the love for hip hop, and then he became a customer. And the other person was Milk D from Audio 2.
Shout out to Milk D, for sure.
For sure.
So Biggie and Milk D were 2 of your first customers. Obviously, Biggie went on to be an icon. Obviously, Milk D, Audio 2, legendary hip hop collective, and you did the Audio 2 album cover, right?
Right, I did the I Don't Care cover. So the one with the crashed up Benz.
Mm-hmm.
And Shirt Kings did some of the artwork on it as well.
So in that time, as you were getting into this entrepreneurial mindset, it seemed like a lot of people were trying to figure themselves out, understand what they were doing. Like you mentioned Shirt Kings, like you mentioned Dapper Dan. Was that a good time for entrepreneurs? Was that a good time for people to just jump out and do their own thing, moving away from the quote-unquote 9 to 5 and getting a good city job? Was people on the hustle like that?
Absolutely. So the 80s were like a blend of, literally there was a lot of money on the streets with hustlers. There was it was crack was coming in, you know, about to hit. We had Reaganomics, all these different factors, but you could literally go to like a club like Bentley's and see Mike Tyson hanging out with a hustler hanging out with a correction officer. It was all these different intersections of the culture coming together. So I think the other thing is hip hop was on the rise. So it was the 80s was a time when we figured out, oh, we can not only enjoy hip hop and be a part of it, but we could really build this out because it was more than just the music, right? You felt it. That's why you had graffiti, graft artists. That's why you had the dancers. That's why you had people blinging out and bleaching their jeans. So we were just like, we couldn't find what we wanted in the store. We wanted to represent the culture. And so we just started creating what we wanted, what we know we want, you know, and from that, there was a business that began. And then you get in where you fit in and you figure it out. Once we did the first cover, Milk came back and said, can you style my next video? And that was my first styling job. And then I figured out, oh wow, that's another revenue stream. We started a styling division, and we went on to work with, you know, Flavor Unit, with Queen Latifah, with Naughty by Nature, with, you know, Craig Mack, with Puffy, with, like you said, Jay-Z, with just Run DMC, you know, Onyx, so many artists, but that all came through the culture.
Absolutely. So from Fashion and Effect, at one point or some point, you shut the store down and you decided to do a new company, a new brand. I think it was it one in between before Walkaway?
No.
Okay. So then what gives you the passion, the idea, the spark to say, you know what, I want to do my own Walkaway brand?
I listened to my customers. You know, I saw they were coming in asking for the same thing. So two things happened. Artists started rocking my stuff in videos and photo shoots. So there was Word Up magazine, there was Right On, and then there was Video Music Box. That was it. And so the artists started representing, and you would see it. And then my customers would come in and ask me for something I created in those videos over and over and over again. One of them was a suit called the Rough and Rugged suit. Shout out to Eric Sermon, EPMD, with Crossover. Like, that video was one of the first videos I can remember. And then Run DMC, they were just like, they went hard with, you know, if you look at the Down with the King, cover, you know, like, so it was just it was a lot of people asking for that suit. And I paid attention. I was like, we need to start a line. That's how we started Walkaway.
Fire. Now, you make it sound so easy. It was word of mouth. I started the store. I did this. Talk about some of the adversity that you faced. Obviously, you said you started Fashion and Effect on the shoestring budget. So how were you able to launch a whole line of clothing?
So we went with Fashion and Effect for a few years. So we were getting our weight up, and we started styling. That was another extension of it. Wasn't easy. Let me just start there. If it sounds like I'm saying it's easy, I'm not saying that. It was definitely hard. I made a lot of mistakes the first year, and I believe through God, through timing, through opportunity, it all lined up. The stars lined up. So even with the mistakes, we became profitable out the box. And then you put smarter people around you, people that are in the business that know what they're doing. So that helped us, right? But we still had a lot of adversity. One of the things I did was I did not tell people there was a female behind a men's brand. And that was on purpose because of the misogyny within hip hop at that time. And then also just how women were treated at that time in business. And I didn't feel like I wanted to gamble that. If they didn't know it wasn't a woman and they just thought it was a fresh to death men's line, I'd have a better opportunity. And I didn't. And it worked. You know, people found out after the fact. Those that knew, but the masses did not know that I was the creator, and I didn't do a lot of interviews or anything like that on purpose. So that's one thing. I definitely know I had a harder time because I was a female in the all men's business. I have countless stories there.
Right.
And then also financing. You know how they have had the whole period of subprime financing for real estate. The same thing was going on with Black businesses.
Wow.
So, you know, and then there were more hurdles for us. That still continues.
Absolutely. So now the brand is popping. You're seeing it all over the place. You somebody who went to school, you went to college, but I'm sure this whole entire journey is just all a new experience for you. How were you able to adjust, adapt, figure out what you needed to do? You know, how you were able to get products, how you were able to get denim, how you were able to get these fabrics, and just everything that goes into making sure your line is successful.
You need to be a student, your own coach, and your own like cheerleader at all times. So you got to be so self-motivated. That's the first thing, right? And you open ears, ask the right questions, and don't be afraid to ask. You know, I didn't have a mentor, but what I did was go straight at it. So like we had something called, I forget what it was called, the Thomas. It's a big book in business, and you could look in that book and find out where manufacturers were.
Oh, wow.
You know, like, so I literally would get on a plane and go to LA, rent a car, and go to every factory that I had on my paper. And if you go and you ask for a pair, like, how much is this t-shirt? And you go to 10 factories, and 8 of those factories tell you between $8 and $9, you know that's the range. So now you can work backwards, like, I got 7.
Got you. That's where that Brooklyn hustle come in at, right?
You know, when you don't have people giving you the information, you just have to use what you have. But, you know, that was how I started. And then through making alliances of other people in the business, they became building blocks, putting smarter people around me through sales, through manufacturing. Once they saw you're serious and you come back over and over with repeat business and those orders go up, they start respecting you and they start sharing more information and they turn you on to somebody. It's relationships. And those aren't built overnight. So you got to be in it for the long game.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off of the long game, so what was your long game, if you will? You know, what was your ultimate goal? Was it to be in stores, in department stores? Was it to have your own storefront again?
You know, I never thought that, you know, that's a great question. I started out just making clothes. Like, that was my goal. And then as it grew, it became this big business. But I think ultimately I always had my eye on legacy more than anything, you know.
Important word, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, it was important to me because you think about Ralph Lauren, you think about all these brands that exist, and, you know, our names are hardly ever in that mix. And I wanted a brand that represented the culture that would stand the test of time. So it was always about honoring the culture and honoring myself and making decisions that I slept good with at night, you know, I could sleep good with, but also being able to create. That's everything, you know, and collaborate, and like with people like you.
Don't leave me out of this. This is not about me. This is April Walker Wednesday. So, you were in at a time where, like you said, hip hop was new. You know, coming out of the '80s, going into them good '90s, hip hop starts to become this big business. People see there's a lot of money in it, and I feel like the urban brands that we were looking at the time, the Maurice Malones, the Carl Kanais, the Cross Colors, you know, Walkerwear, we can go on and on. Those brands were like the focal point of when you saw your favorite artists out. You know, they were wearing this. It was hip hop. The sizing was right. It felt like us. I remember I was like, yo, I'm not wearing Polo, Hilfiger, none of that no more. I only want to wear Black-owned brands, and I was on that. And that was really because it was so hard for me to find sizes and to fit the way I wanted to. I was like, right. These Black-owned brands, they get it. But at some point, as you spoke to legacy, everybody seemed to fade out, fizzle out. You know, everybody had a run. Fubu had a run. Carl Kanai had a run. We saw our favorite artists in all these different brands. What was the point in time where everybody started to fade out and decline, and what was the cause of that?
I think that, you know, the causes are debatable, but for me, through my perspective, it was definitely a few things. So you have a bigger battle when you partner with big corporations because they don't respect the culture in the same way you do. And no matter what, it's very hard to find a big corporation that's going to have your legacy and your culture ahead of the dollars. So that makes it hard when you're trying to grow out a plan over a long game and they want their dollars now.
Gotcha.
That leads to oversaturation in distribution. That leads to you maybe being in 10 stores on one block instead of one store in one zip code. Keeping it very exclusive is hard. It's a hard battle once you go with the big boys. So that's one part of it. And as a result, because so many brands were there, real estate is only but so big in a store.
Right.
And if you have an oversaturation of a lot of brands and people start spitting out mediocre goods because they're trying to turn over dollar after dollar, it hurts the overall culture.
Right.
And so that was part of it, the oversaturation. And the other part of it was a lot of people stopped taking it serious. So where you showed up to show your best, you now were just spitting out, slapping a logo on something, and you started seeing the decline there.
Lazy shit.
Lazy geniuses, and then a lot of rappers became artists, became designers, or had brands. Not became designers, they had brands. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like, kudos to Puff when he did Sean John, because he did it right. He put the people around him that knew the business, that understood the business, and that were serious about it.
Right.
But if you're not serious about it, just the same way I'm not going to be a rapper tomorrow.
Right. But if you need some bars, I got you.
Okay. That's a come.
There's always this conversation, and I like where the conversation is right now, right? Supporting Black brands and Black-owned businesses. One thing that I think about often now is that there are no Black, what is that? What do you call Gucci? Like high-end. There's no Black high-end brand. When I got money, I wanted to go get a Gucci belt and my Louis luggage and there's no Black.
Not that you know of. There are some.
Okay. Yes, please school us, because that's where I want to spend my money, and that's where I want to start to use my influence. When I'm on the red carpet, it ain't got to be a Gucci this or a Louis that. It needs to be somebody that look like me, that comes from where I'm from.
I'll send you some names.
Yeah, we definitely need that. Now, when you speak about legacy, a few years ago, you relaunched Walkaware. A lot of people were excited about it, me being one of those people. What went into your thought process about just relaunching after 25 years, and what were the differences you noticed from your initial jump off to the re-come out?
So I took a break in like the early 2000s. I took a break, and then the reason I decided to relaunch was because I saw the digital era was here to stay. Mm-hmm. And it was a different game with distribution. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to feel the pressure of necessarily going in stores. Like when we were out before, we were selling department stores, chain stores, independents. That's a whole different game that I wasn't interested in. Maybe a collaboration in and out, but not long term. I wanted to go direct to my people with the bullhorn, and I wanted to create. Those were my main things. And I wanted to bridge the gap in storytell so young people could see another version of success. You can live the dream and do what you want and dance to your own beat without having to be this machine, because I think success is elusive. It's like a butterfly. You're always chasing it, and you're trying to catch it. Can't catch it. It has to be from here,
Right. A wise man once told me, you decide what success is to you, right? You have to define what success looks like to you. If that's bullet points of this, and this, and that, and then you figure out your route to that success.
Absolutely.
People hit me, yo, Tor, so when I'm like, why not blow up? Man,
right.
What are you talking about? Like, I'm here.
I'm here. Like, I'm in the building.
Yeah, but again, I think success is defined to different people as different things. Being able to do what you love and see your product out there, whether it be music, whether it be walkaway clothing and things like that, that is a whole different level of success that I think people definitely need to understand and eventually, hopefully, feel as well. Now, what were some of the difficulties or like some of the differences you noticed about the digital era, being able to go straight to consumer? Was that positive? Was that better for you? You know, well, talk to me just about that whole process.
So I think that I will. Let me just finish this and say that the other thing is being self-made. Like that, something to that, you know. It's a very powerful thing, guys. So when you think about your intellectual properties, when you think about your businesses, think about that aspect of it. Like I could get on social media and say what I want to say without worrying about the repercussions or the backlash of a big corporation shutting me up. For you know, those things are important.
Can't nobody shut us up. We say what we say. We say we feel.
Absolutely. So the difference of distribution, wow, big differences. So there were so many layers before, right? Factories that I had to deal with, like on another level. Now it's changed because it's so much more sophisticated. So you can have your manufacturing, a lot of manufacturing is done in one place. It's not like a dye house and then a this and then a that. You can, from soup to nuts, you can have one manufacturer doing one product for you, whereas from soup to nuts, you might have had 10 different steps in one product before. That's one thing. On the other side, with the actual distribution, it's not, I used to have to order at least 1,200 units of color, right, for one product. Now, you can order a lot less. There's so many people out here willing to work with smaller brands because the game has changed. There aren't like, it's not the top 40s, it's the top 440s because of the internet. So it's a different game. You might not sell as many pieces in one piece, but if you have different products, you can always bring them back. You can get your numbers up in different ways. So it's different. And the other difference is before people wanted stuff where everybody had it. That's why I think the game was hurt. Like it got shitty because of that. I think now it's back to limited edition and custom. That's when I started in the 80s. That's how it was. And now we just want stuff like that's different that other people don't have. And that speaks to the person, to the consumer. That means we're getting creative again and we're becoming independent thinkers.
Absolutely. What was your learning curve as you embarked into this next generation? You know, had to figure out kind of like a new process.
Digital medium, understanding that, and really finding my footing within social media, and you know what that looked and felt like, and how to utilize that. And then also the website, like all technology, basically. That was my biggest learning curve, I think. You know. And then trusting, when I first came out, I was like, no, I'm going to do 300 pieces of this and 600 pieces of that. Ugh.
He was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Maybe I'm being a little aggressive, you know, but just getting my footing there.
Absolutely. And now you have your Walker gyms out there. I know you also been working on something else that you can speak to, but talk to me about, as you spoke on legacy, what is your legacy as April Walker, as Walkerwear, and what are some of the things you have coming up?
For Walkerwear, we have a new division that's brewing right now. We have a new category where we'll be sharing with online organizations. So if you buy like a freedom fighter tee, or we have a tee coming out with George Floyd, well, not his whole name, but it's a dope tee. It's coming out soon. And we just have a section for things you can buy in that section. And 50% of the proceeds go to frontline organizations that are working towards change for you and me. Things like that. I'll be doing more and more of that. And that's how you will see the conversion of Walkerwear, because that's really where my heart is. Right. So that's just where the brand will be, you know, things like that with Walkerwear. Legacy-wise, I want to be known as a giver and a game changer, because that's who I am. I like to give, I like to share, I like to help. I believe that when we empower each other, we're empowering our communities. And as we do that, we build together. I believe lateral cooperation creates vertical movement. So, you know, all of those things are principles I stand on. I want to pour into others so they can be stronger. So, you know, when I'm here, when I leave, I want to know that it's a better place.
Absolutely. It's so not funny, but the irony of, or not even the irony, I guess it was inevitable. We would have these conversations all the time. April and I would stay up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning building, like us or maybe a few other people, but we would be having these conversations. Are you excited to see where we are now, even through all the adversity and tragedy? You know, sometimes you got to burn the whole shit down to build it back up.
I'm very excited. I mean, I'm hopeful. Let's say I'm very excited and hopeful. I mean, I'm always heartbroken at what happens. You know, it took this to happen. But what I want to do is make sure this moment is more than a trending moment. And we don't look back in history as like we almost had it. It's time to put the foot on the gas pedal and for us to work tirelessly and to use our bullhorn over and over again. And now is the time, wherever you are, whatever you have, whatever your talents are, think about how you can contribute right now. We need to organize. We need to organize. We need to organize. Because trust me, no offense to white people, but when white people get bored and when the smoke clears and the economy opens back up and people have to go back to work and the marching starts, that's when the real work is going to begin.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we keep the narrative, it's our narrative, and that it just stays front and center. And on the back end of it, we need to do the work to really uphold the future, the young people that are out there marching, and that's whatever color it is, because we want change. And we want change for everyone, right? Change for us is change for everyone. We all win with it. So, you know, that's important, but no one could do the work for us. It has to be our work. And we have to build up our own tables. Now is the time.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Again, man, it's something that it's like the credo that we've been living by. It's a lot of the conversations that we've been having, and then just to see it start to roll out and really start to come to fruition. Although on the heels of tragedy, it's just a beautiful thing, and we got to stay vigilant. You know, we got to stay active. We got to stay galvanized, and like you said, organize. Hey, before I let you go, you have worked with the most legendary of legends, and you're a legend yourself. And we're gonna make sure y'all put your flowers in the comments right now for April. You know, from the likes of Pac and Big and Jay, who's not here, and Aaliyah, you know, and of course artists that are still here, man. But we'll just give me some of those memories about the artists that you work with who aren't with us anymore. Pac writing poems to you and Big pulling up on you. Just talk to me about just some of those times.
Man, priceless times, because we were so young, you know, like we didn't know what this was going to be. So it was just like, imagine yourself at 20 something building your dream, and you guys are all sharing and talking about it. I remember walking down from 125th. We walked all the way through Manhattan, me, Pac, and Stretch.
Rest in peace to Pac and Stretch.
Me, Pac, and Stretch. And we walked through, we stopped at the Shark Bar. And we kept coming down, you know, and I just remember those times because it was a hot summer night and it was just like just building, talking. I remember one night talking about dreams, standing outside with OE. Jam Master Jay had a bottle of OE and we were in the Village, and we just stood on the corner for hours talking about our dreams, you know. Like, those are moments that you'll never get back, and like those are priceless moments for me, you know.
Crazy. The legendary April Walker, my sister, my fam. Anytime I need her for something, she's there for me, and hopefully she feels the same about me.
Always.
You know?
I love you, Torae. I'm always, you know, we're the same tribe.
Right. Big facts.
We think so much alike, and you know, I'm always rooting for you because you're doing the work. You're doing the work, and your talent speaks for itself.
No, we're not doing this today. Wait. I have to say two things. On Walker Gems, I have a book. You want to know more about the journey? There's a book at Walker Gems. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it on my website. I'm at walkerwear.com. You can check out Fly Goods. And last but not least, I have a course coming up. It's called Streetwear Essentials. It's with Parsons and Complex. So if you want to be in a streetwear game, it's a good place to start. And then I also have an online course coming later this fall. So be on the lookout. Yes, get involved with all of that. Hey, one thing I always admire about you is, although you have a very extensive and deep-rooted history, you never just rest on your laurels. you always had young people around you. You always had fresh energy around you. You always gave opportunities to young creatives. And I think that's another way that you continue to reinvent yourself and stay relevant, is that you make sure that you keep some fresh blood around you.
It's so important. Like, young people are the future. And I mean, the most creative. I learned from there. I call it reverse mentorship. You know, they learn from me, I learn from them, and we both, it's energy feeds energy. So that's what it is. It keeps me young. It keeps me not being this older, rigid person that just is like, oh, they think like this. No, you know what I mean? Maybe we need to think like that. So
Right.
it's a little bit of both.
Hey, you one of the original fly girls, and you still fly in 2020. How you do this? You out here working out every day, drinking
Working
alcohol,
out. I'm back on my game. I'm back on my ish.
Hey, I'm gonna take you back to a place, man. This MC Light paper thin video, man. We saw you in that vid, man. Talk to me about, because a lot of people don't know that, man. We saw you in that vid, man. What was how you end up on a train with Light and Sam?
That was when I first started working with Milk, and they had that video. I don't know if Light invited me down that day or Milk, you know. And if, for those that don't know, Light and Milk are brother and sister. So it was just like I came down, and I wasn't intending to be in the video. And it was one of those things where they needed extra people, so I just jumped in. And
you just jumped in?
Yeah.
Ended up with a big old cameo, huh?
It was a nice cameo. It worked out. So.
No doubt. Hey, I love you. Stay safe
Love you
out there.
too.
I'll see you soon. As soon as all this crazy shit is over, we can get back up
Then
and continue to do what we've been doing. And now that we got a lot more people on the same mindset that we can see, because now it's out there. You know, it might have been tribes building and having the same conversations we were having, but they were having them in their own little hubs. Now the conversations are more public. So let's organize with some people and do the things that we need to do to change the world.
Absolutely. Can I say one more thing? It's going to be imperative for us to last, good people, that we support each other. Support Black businesses. Support Black brands. We can't create legacies without you.
That's facts. That's facts. Hey, I'm going to hit you up again, because I need all of those luxury, high-end Black designers. I need all that.
I'll get that together for you.
I appreciate it. Love. Ladies and gentlemen, April Walker, my big sis, I thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Always.
I just wanted to share some of your story with the people. We're going to get back into some music. Again, everybody at Walk Away and Rock, we rocking with them today, man. We're going to continue to vibe out.
I want to hear it. I'm going to be listening.
Okay,
Later.
I got you. Yeah, man. Shout out to my sister April Walker one time for A. Now, I know